On today's episode of Locked On NHL, we simultaneously look at the Western Conference wildcard picture as well as the Tankathon.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Locked On NHL, your daily NHL podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we are your team each and every day. And we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. On today's episode of Locked On NHL, we will take a look at the Western Conference wildcard picture, which is going to come down to the wire. Calgary, still a little spark in that flame. We'll see if it is enough for them to find their way into the playoffs or if they'll be left out in the cold. We will also take a look at a situation that just continues to kind of unravel right before our eyes. Calvin De Haan, not super thrilled about his usage in New York, which is to say when he first got there and never since. So we'll talk about that and just a Ranger season that continues to rapidly combust and all the parts are falling off. And we'll also talk about the Tankathon as the top three. Top three are set. So we'll look at where everybody else could slot in as well. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, joined as always today by JD Young of Locked On Sharks for your Tuesday edition of Locked On NHL. And JD, I think we need to first and foremost just stop trying to will the St. Louis Blues to do anything.
Maybe if we try hard enough, they could just give the Sharks the 2019 Stanley Cup because I'm still mad about that. But hey, we could try. So, but yeah, this team, like, I can't figure out this team because, right, we literally talked about, man, this team was on fire last week, and then they've pooped the bed basically for the past week here, not being able to clinch that final wildcard spot. Your Wild, kind of in the same boat as well in the Calgary Flames. Actually, the Dustin Wolves, aka the Calgary Flames, just keep hanging in there. So, Seth, I'm going to ask you, lifelong Wild fan, a team that looked like this year was going to be a different year with Kirill Kaprizov. All you need is 1 point, right? 1 point to clinch a wildcard spot. Where are you on the P scale? 1, no worries, I'm feeling great. 10, this is the worst thing that's ever going to happen to me.
8.5.
8.5. You definitely need new pants.
So here's where we're at. The Wild have the 1 point lead over St. Louis for the final spot. All the Wild need to do, because they control the tiebreakers. They have the tiebreaker on both teams. So all the Minnesota Wild need to do is they don't even need to win the game against Anaheim. They just need to get into overtime, get the 1 point, and they're in. And they avoid playing the Winnipeg Jets.
That's good.
I thought when St. Louis went on the we're never going to lose again run, I thought the number one wild card spot was all but lost with how the Wild had played recently. And now all of a sudden it's right back in play. And it's interesting because you look at the final two games for Calgary. They play the Vegas Golden Knights and they play the Los Angeles Kings in that makeup game that is going to be on Thursday.
But those teams have nothing to play for. The Vegas locked up. They are the one in the Pacific, right? Locked up. Nothing. They can't fall out. They're going to be putting out if you have any sort of importance, you are going to be seeing the press box. That team is going to look a lot like the 2023-2024 San Jose Sharks. They're going to just roll out some dudes. We know Vegas is very much like you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. We need a meaningful game or meaningless game against the Flames. Meh.
However, the Los Angeles Kings could lock up the number 2 seed, which is beneficial for them to do, because I don't know if you've seen their home and road splits lately.
They're very good at home.
31, 5-4 at home.
Yes.
15,
but the Oilers
19-5 on the road.
The Oilers have like nobody to play either. And so the Oilers play the Sharks on Wednesday night. They again trying to, potentially get that spot there. But like the Oilers are like that team is like, look at the mash unit that is that team right now. They've just lost more people, right? If you're the Kings, like, yes, playing at home would be nice, but like you have to be licking your chops about potentially playing this Oilers, whatever version of this Oilers team is with McDavid. Still not McDavid's look pretty good, but we don't know if Draisaitl's gonna be 100%. Like you don't have Matthias Ekholm. Like this team is a walking mash unit right now, and this could be the year that the Kings finally get over. So yes, getting home ice would be nice, but you just got to be happy playing this beat up Oilers team here. So the Flames, the path is there for the Flames, and would be one of the most ridiculous stories ever if they just somehow don't go away and are able to get into here. And then you have Dustin Wolf versus Hellebuck, all Canadian matchup. Like, how great is that in the first round?
I mean, that would be delightful. To have to figure out how to beat Vegas and not have to worry about playing Winnipeg at all. The St. Louis Blues are 1-2 against Utah this year. And honestly, of the teams of Minnesota, Calgary, and St. Louis, I think I'm now going to jinx it again for a third consecutive week by saying that I am most worried about. No, I'm not gonna utter that into existence, because then we know exactly what's gonna happen. The two teams that are going to get in from the Western Conference, the wild card picture, are St. Louis and Calgary.
You
because this is just how the season has gone for the Minnesota Wild, and this is part of me trying to further manifest a jinx. Because I'm out of options at this point. I
play both sides, so I can't lose. Right?
I'm out of options at this point. There's no further route that I can go other than to just try to jinx the St. Louis Blues again. Ultimately, I think the Wilds. I feel like the Wild are the team that is the most safe.
Yeah, they just need the 1 point.
3. Yeah.
They just see the 1 point. And furthermore to the Kings thing, like as we're recording this before, but the Kings play the Oilers tonight and they have a game in hand. So if they, as you know, by the time you listen to this, you'll probably know if the Kings go up by 4 points on the Oilers, like this thing's over. Like it's over. Like they're going to have that number 2 seed and be willing to rest players and going into the end of the week here. So yeah, man. I do feel like the Wild's the safest, and plus with I know the Ducks have been playing pretty well here, kind of down the stretch. I know they lost to a Colorado team that had nobody playing in it, but like this Wild team, right? They have to show up. They have to show up at some point, right?
Yeah.
I know they didn't show up against the Calgary this weekend. I'm kind of talking myself into the Flames now. I'm kind of talking myself into the Flames.
Everything's
there. It would be so ridiculous for them to get in a team that, right? Like all of us, everybody thought this was going to be one of the worst teams in hockey, and just Dustin Wolf just putting this team on his back. The kid might get 30 wins and start 55 games or something like that. It's just ridiculous what he's doing for this team. I watched like watching him just like the Sharks were giving him everything they had the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game on Sunday night. And he's the only reason that game wasn't 3-0 at some point. And then finally the Calgary got their legs under them and were able to take the lead. But still, what this kid is doing is ridiculous. I don't know, man. I'm talking myself into the Flames.
So the way that the Wild don't get in is St. Louis and Calgary have to both leapfrog. If they all tie, or if somebody ties with the Minnesota Wild, that does them no good. They have to both leapfrog, which is going to be harder for them to do than it is for the Wild to simply gain 1 point. And we're not talking about the number 2 wild card. If the Wild get 1 point, they get the number 1 wild card.
Wild card, yeah.
So it is the
maybe it's
least...
just then I'm gonna go Wild Flames. I'm gonna say Wild and Flames make it. We know then somehow St. Louis is gonna St. Louis is gonna go on like a conference finals run now because of this.
I can't wait to clip that audio for next week. When it inevitably ends up happening that the Flames and the Blues get in.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, how could this have happened? Well, because JD jinxed it.
JD jinxed. I man, that Flames team. I've watched a lot of Flames hockey recently, and yeah, it's Dustin Wolf, man. That kid's special.
Yeah, so averaging slightly above averaging like 2.2 goals per game over a multi-month span is definitely sustainable.
I didn't say that things were gonna work out in the playoffs. I'm just saying they've been playing playoff hockey for a while now. So again, it's not gonna be pretty when they play the Jets. But still, they're just playing anyway.
It
doesn't matter. Colorado's winning the whole thing anyway, so eat Arby's.
I would actually end up leaning towards the team that made the most impactful trade deadline addition. The St. Louis Blues, Cam Fowler. That's the one. That's the one that I would go with, but it's just me. Let's go from talking about teams pushing for the playoffs to a team that is eliminated after winning the President's Trophy last year. Yikes. There's some trouble brewing in New York. And there are some players that are not particularly happy about what's going on. So we'll talk about that as we continue today's episode of Locked On NHL after this. Today's episode of Locked On NHL is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I was watching the Masters all weekend, and I had my go-to snack with me, Wonderful Pistachios, honey roasted unsalted nuts. They were delicious. You have a handful here, handful there, and next thing you know, you've been snacking all day, and it's good for you, as opposed to any number of other things we know we shouldn't eat that we still do anyway. Wonderful Pistachios is actually good for you. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On NHL. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. Seth and JD hanging out with you here on a Tuesday edition of the show, and turning our attention now to the New York Rangers, who have been a little bit dysfunctional. Just a hideous start. Just a terrible start that they got off to. They nearly willed themselves back into the playoffs, and then they died again. It's been a little bit of a mess, and Calvin De Haan he's had enough. He's tired of it. His statement most recently was short, sweet, and to the point, and not airable on most television sets. In regards to his feelings on coming to the Rangers, playing in the first 3 games that he was acquired, and then never playing again. And he's not happy with it. He said it, quote, "It's effed." Just not good. And so, that made the rounds. That made the rounds all over.
Yes.
Got picked up a lot of different places. And so yesterday, Sunday, I should say, De Haan on X tried to elaborate a little more as to why he's frustrated with where things are at. So we'll read you a little bit of it. It's very lengthy, 3 full paragraphs. And
Good
he is
for,
not
he pays for that subscription there, huh? Yeah.
He is not verified. So I don't know.
You can hide it. You can hide it.
Oh, I did not know that was a thing.
Yes.
Anyway, so here are some snippets. After playing 3 games for the team and going 2-0-1, I thought I maybe would have gotten an opportunity to jump into the lineup and help win some games. Did I help win those games I played? Maybe, maybe not, but we still won and collected some crucial points to climb in the standings. I understand the youth movement in the NHL. I'm getting older in hockey years, and I may not play every single night. I feel like I can still contribute and help teams win. And I'm not going to play 20 minutes a night in the role I've been in the past few years. But again, I feel like I can still keep up and help a team in certain facets of the game. As a player, you have to respect the lineup decisions, whether you like them or not. It's just been frustrating not to be able to compete and do what I love to do. I hope everybody understands. And obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but that was essentially the summation of it. He's frustrated about not being able to help his team win.
This Rangers team's weird because it's like they don't like, okay, you're gonna go full movement, then play your kids. Like, you just signed, Gabe Perreault burned his ELC first season, and he's getting press boxed. In a season where you're not going to win games. Like, what is this Rangers team doing? Like, seriously, are you still trying to win games? Are you trying to let your young kids play? Or are you just trying to piss everyone off? Because it feels very much like option C here of just get everyone mad. And we know, like, this isn't the first time with the Rangers, especially when it comes to, like, young players. I don't know, Capo Caco. Seems like he's doing really well over with Seattle now that he's gotten like top 6 minutes. He's getting to play, like every night. Seems like that's working out for him. Like, this Rangers team, it has been, if it wasn't for Vancouver, this Rangers team would be like the number 1 teledrama like of the season, because Vancouver's up in their own stratosphere. Nobody's topping Vancouver. But like, I just don't know what this team is right now. Are you, and I know they've made a lot of moves to try to kind of clear up and place themselves in a position this offseason to be active, especially with all the veteran players they have. But like, man, I don't know. What are you gonna? You seem like you're just going to get everyone angry because you're not going to play guys like De Haan, who probably could help you win some games, but. And then again, like, you have like Zach Jones who needs to play, and you have like all these other guys who, like, younger guys who need to play as well. So poor Calvin De Haan.
Yeah, I think there are teams throughout the NHL that just don't want to, whether it be because of the fan base or because of where they're at geographically. They're just teams that don't want to make it look like they've given up. Mm-hmm. Like, even if the season doesn't go the way that they are hoping to, they don't.
The Islanders are just like,
like they have staked a flag in every part of the yard over there in Islanderville. And I saw on X over the weekend, somebody at the Hockey Writers wrote an article saying, have Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Waugh lost their fastball? And I'm like, you are just writing this now in April? Like, I think we could have come to that conclusion last
a couple
year.
Aprils ago. Yes.
At least. But it's, in New York media in particular, the expectation is that you are going to not only make the playoffs, but you're going to make a deep run every year. And every season that you don't, failure. Fire the coach. Trade the players that didn't help. Like that's the belly of the beast in New York.
I mean, the coach is getting fired. Peter Laviolette's gone. Like,
Yeah.
right. And, you know, like, it's been a weird season. Like, even going back to last summer, right? The whole Barclay Goodrow thing, right? Barclay Goodrow had a no movement clause. They basically threatened him, like, we're going to trade you. He said, I don't, you know, I have 15 team, et cetera, et cetera. They were like, okay, we'll waive you, and the Sharks are going to pick you up, right? And then you talk about the Trouba thing, right? Trouba, we're going to try to trade you to, like, it's pretty well known. They were going to try to trade him to the Red Wings, full no movement clause. He's like, I don't want to go there. All right, we're going to basically force you somewhere, as he ends up going to the Ducks this season. Yeah, it's just a weird situation over there. And then you talk, you know, the whole Laviolette coming into the locker room, not coming into the locker room after the game, like, what's up with that? And like, but this seems like super veteran as well, you know, like these guys have been together for a long, like this core has been together for a long time. You know, you look at, you know, between Panarin and Zibanejad and, you know, like Fox and even Keandre Miller, like Shesterkin, like this team has been together for a long time. And maybe they just need a new voice in their room when it comes to a coach, or maybe they just need some talent injection or whatever it is. But yeah, it's just been it has not been the year I think that they anybody thought that would happen.
I think on the Rangers side, I think the so you change the voice. They brought Peter Laviolette in to try to kind of reshape the message.
Yep.
And the problems, like it's deteriorated. And having watched the Minnesota Wild play the Rangers recently, they don't even attempt to play defense there. And
defense is for nerds. Go score points.
Laughably bad effort on that side of the ice. And so, you know, at some point, I think the roster construction kind of comes into play. It's a very old roster. It's a very slow roster for the most part. But this is kind of where some of the GMs miss the mark is, you're not going to get to the postseason, but getting Gabe Perreault playing time now is valuable. Getting him playing time, getting him in the lineup before the offseason starts is valuable, because then he's got a little barometer to say, okay, here's what the NHL is like. Here's where I need to up my game, what I need to do over the summer. Like, how is he supposed to, if you don't get him into those games here now, then he kind of has to, then he's getting that learning curve in next season, and he has to try to do that stuff on the fly as opposed to getting the whole offseason to kind of get a head start.
And plus, it's meaningless games right now. Like, who cares if you lose 6-2 or whatever? But if your young players getting valuable experience, right? That's what these games are for. And, you know, Gabe Perreault, you know, maybe he starts in the AHL next year, maybe he doesn't, who knows? But like, yeah, it's just, I would rather him getting full minutes, let him get some of these mistakes, let him, that way he, again, you know what, that kind of off season, I think it gets you prepared mentally for the off season that you need to become a professional. For a guy like Gabe Perreault, again, like, you know, top 20, I think he's like 20 or 23 pick, whatever he was for the Rangers. And for a Rangers team that doesn't have a lot of high-end prospects, like Gabe Perreault feels like one of those guys who you're going to be counting on to be a high-end player for you, especially with so many Asian pieces. And you hope to maybe be the next Caps, right? We have a veteran group, but we have, you know, Ryan Leonard coming in to inject some talent, hoping Gabe Perreault can kind of come in and inject some talent to the team. So, and inject some life. But yeah, the Rangers are going to be one of, if not the biggest offseason stories to watch, and how they try to navigate. Is this a 1-year reset and then we're back to where we were? Or is this the beginning of that? We're trying to reload on the fly. The next couple of years might be a little messy.
At what point do they write another letter to fans?
That baby's drafted. They got like 7 of them ready to go.
How long have you been holding on to this, Chris Drury?
He's got like 7 of those. Yeah.
Been sitting on his desktop. It says final draft.
Final draft version 7, final underscore capital, all capitals, final.
Final. Speaking of final, the top 3 in the Tankathon has officially been set. And so since JD gets a little opportunity to selly here, we'll walk through the top 3 and who are going to be the big movers and shakers in the final 2 games of the season in terms of being bad. We'll find out as we continue today's episode of Locked On NHL after this.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, and design, and more experts ready to take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who can deliver incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
Final segment of today's episode of Locked On NHL. Once again, we are your team each and every day, and we thank you for listening and making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day of the week as well. Seth and JD finishing things out for your Tuesday edition of the show. And JD, this is way more your territory than mine. The Tankathon. Congratulations, I guess.
Anything is possible. Back to back, Sharks have locked up the top odds. So if you're watching on YouTube, we have the full as of Monday night. The Sharks officially clinching the top odds heading into the draft lottery. Chicago and Nashville have all clinched their spots. They cannot move heading into the draft lottery. Boston, Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, all some movement potential here, especially with a team like Philly, who does have games in hand compared to some of these other teams. I know Buffalo is winning as of we're recording this, but so I do think if you're a team like the Sharks who continually need to add more talent, being in a top 3 in what's considered like a 4-person draft class. I mean, the top 2 is definitely their own tier with Matthew Schaefer, the defenseman from the Erie Otters, and Michael Misa, the forward for the Saginaw Spirit. And it kind of feel like the natural fit would be Schaefer for the Sharks, and then Michael Misa going to Chicago. That way Bedard has a running mate here. But how these other guys kind of pan out, especially with you look at James Hagan and Porter Martone, kind of the other 2 guys in that 4-person tier, like which teams could be looking at those is going to be very interesting here before we hit the actual draft lottery. So and if you're, again, as a reminder, you can only teams in the top 11 are only teams eligible to actually move up to number 1. If a team in the teens, if they quote unquote win the lottery, they can only move up 10 spots, and you can only win the draft lottery by moving up twice. So in Chicago's already done it once in the Bedard season, so you're going to do it twice in 5 years. So if the Sharks win it again, they could technically, since they were the number 1 odds, if they finish like 5th next year, then they could potentially win it for Gavin McKenna and have like 3 straight first-round picks or first overall picks, which would be really fun. Gavin McKenna to celebrate to Smith. Let's go, baby. No, I can't do another year taking. I can't do it, Seth.
Some teams just trade their first-round pick for more known commodities.
That guy,
David Jiricek. And I wonder, like, I'm just throwing this out here just completely because
Yeah.
because it is a more top end draft. I wonder if
Yes.
we see more activity depending on how these final couple of games go for teams. Like, let's move back to accumulate some picks, or let's consolidate our picks and try to move higher up the board, kind of a thing.
You could, but like it's very rare, kind of going in the history of the draft, like that top 10, like you just don't see picks traded there unless they're picks for like legitimate like NHL stars. You think of like the
Yeah.
Sens trading number 7 for DeBrincat a couple of years ago, right? And like you just don't see that. And again, like it does feel like this uh from people I've talked to, they say it nicely say it opens up kind of in the teens and 20s here. But if you're maybe a smart GM, right, and like a team like the Hurricanes, right, I figure you probably want a lot of cracks at the bat or swings with the bat between those like mid second to kind of mid third round there, where there's potentially a lot of value in there. But it does feel like this year's draft, there just isn't that guy like the last couple of years, right? You had Celebrini last year, you had Bedard the year before. This year does feel a little bit more open between Misa and Schaefer. Schaefer, who looked great, but then broke his collarbone at World Juniors. Misa was absolutely dynamic for Saginaw this year, but maybe doesn't have like that super duper high end ceiling, like a Bedard or Celebrini. So, but yeah, I mean, still, there's still going to be a lot of good players that come out of this draft. So, and if you're the Sharks, right? I mean, you go potentially you have Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini, Schaefer or Misa, like this Sharks team's coming, baby. The Sharks team is coming. So
Yeah, they can hang 7 goals on people at will.
and give up 8.
Well, only lost by 1.
Hey, that's how you take, baby. You make it look interesting to the Sharks. They become very good at that. Just an insane amount of like either 1 goal losses or games where they gave up an empty netter to kind of make it 2. Just an insane amount of those. So, but yeah.
We will keep an eye on the Western Conference as that's going to come all the way down to Thursday for that makeup game. And I would imagine that it'll probably mean a little something when we get to that point. So we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On NHL. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. We are your team each and every day as well. And you can find more episodes by liking and subscribing on YouTube or following along on your favorite audio platforms. We have new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.